Business 121, Chapter 13. Let's talk about simple interest. Let's talk about Chapter 13 for a little bit. There are no steps boxes in this chapter, which really is okay because this chapter is all about formulas. And once you have the formula, all it's about is filling in the blanks. On page 242, we start talking about real simple interest. And you can see there it says the quoted percent. Gotta get my glasses on. Should have been more prepared, I guess. It says the quoted percent usually is an annual or yearly rate. To compute the amount of simple interest on a one-year loan, simply multiply the principal by the rate. If you know it's a one-year loan, it's real simple. Look at example A. Don borrowed $1,000 for 1 year at a rate of 8%. We know it's 1 year, so all we really have to do is principal times rate. You do that, and you'll come out with $80. That's as simple interest as you can get. So if you borrowed $1,000 at 8% and you borrowed it for 1 year, you have to pay back $1,080. That's as simple as it gets. Then if you go with me to 242, down at the bottom, you'll see your first little tan box. These little tan boxes will help you. There's a formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. Now what you'll find is that you will get two of those three variables. You'll either get principal and rate, you'll get principal and time, you'll get rate and time, but you'll always get two, most of the time. Because if not, it'd be funny to me. So, let me get rid of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump over a couple examples and then we'll come back. But we want to go show you something real quick. First. All right. Now, what I'd like to do is jump over to page 243, example D, before we do anything else. It says, and this is how you use your calculator to do, when it comes to different times, it might be 3/4 of a year, it might be a year and a half, and we're going to go into that. But let's take a look at example D. Write the calculator steps for computing the simple interest on $8 million at 9% for 18 months. All right, so now we know we can't just do principal times the rate because it's more than a year. Remember, if it's exactly 1 year, you can just do principal times rate. But now we have 18 months, so we can't do that. So what can we do? We have a formula over there in that tan box on page 242. Interest equals principal times rate times time. So if we just use the formula, interest equals principal times rate times time. We can just fill in the blanks. Interest equals principal is $8 million times rate, which is 9%. Boy, I made that a huge multiplication symbol. Times 9% times 18 months. How do you express 18 months? A year and a half. But it's still based on a year, which is 12 months. Times 18/12. You follow me? We borrowed $8 million for 18 months. So it's 18 over 12. Now, here's the key to this example, and this will help you hopefully. Most calculators, you should be able to key in this next line. You should be able to key in 8 million times, now the book shows it 0.09, you can do that, or my calculator, I can actually put in 8 million times 9% sign times, now here's the whole key to the whole thing. Regardless of how you do this, that's either this or this, either way. 18 divided by 12. Everybody hopefully sees where I'm at. That's the key. You'll have to work with your calculator to see if your calculator will allow you to do that. But that's the whole key. Using the percent sign, and it goes on to show you that you can use the percent sign, and it comes out to interest equals 1,080,000. There you go. But guys, and I don't know if all calculators do this, so I don't want to say all calculators do this, but you should be able to key in just the way it describes in example D, 8 million times 9% times 18 divided by 12. You should be able to key it in just like that. Alright? Check to see if your calculator does that. Alright. Because just as soon as I say all calculators do that, somebody will come in with a calculator that doesn't do that. Alright, now let's jump back. Now that we've learned that, and look at example B. Find the amounts of simple interest on loans of $1,200 when the rate is 6% and the loan periods are 3/4 of a year and 4 years. So we have two different loans we've got to calculate up. My question to you is, my friends, do we have a formula? Well, of course we have a formula. It's right there in the gray box, or the tan box, right above the example. We have interest equals principal times rate times time. Right? So let's do the 3/4 of a year first. We'll do this one first. Interest equals principal, $1,200, times rate of 6%, times 3/4 of a year. Can I just put 3/4 in there? And see, what you can do is, if your calculator works that way, you just do times 3 divided by 4. So figure out what your calculator can do, and you'll see that interest on $1,200 at 6% for 3/4 of a year comes out to $54. But the question is actually asking us to do it both ways. So the 4, again, we just use I equals P times R times T. Interest equals principal of $1,200 times rate of 6% times 4. Interest equals $288. That's all there is, really. Here's the key. You've got to know that formula. And you've also got to know, will your calculator take these fractions the way that we want to do it? All right. Okay. Let's move on over to 244. Now what we want to do is take a little tour to this page. You'll see at the top of the page we talk about computing ordinary interest. Down toward the bottom, we talk about computing exact interest. One difference. Ordinary, exact. Did I spell that wrong? Exact. Ordinary is 360 days. Exact is 365 days. So going back to chapter 4, when we talked about word problems, read the question, figure out what they want, and figure out how you're going to do it. That's the only difference. Ordinary is 360, exact is 365. You know that, you've got the whole chapter beat. Alright, let's just take one quick example here. We'll do example E. Compute the ordinary simple interest on $900 at 9% for 120 days. Ordinary means we're going to use 360, right? So really, if we remember our formula, interest equals principal times rate times time. So really, guys, all we have to do is this. And your calculators hopefully take that, and you'll see that it comes out to interest equals $27. Now, that was ordinary. Can we do the same thing with exact? Well, of course we can. The only thing that changes is what? Using exact interest, we use the 365-day calendar. Now we're down here at example F. Using exact, interest equals 266301, and because we've been in here for 90 days already, we know we round dollars and cents off to the nearest cent, which means interest equals 26.63 dollars. What was our ordinary? Our ordinary was $27. This is exact. This is ordinary. So there was a little bit of difference. Now, if you ran ordinary versus exact on that previous question where we were dealing with $8 million, you would notice a huge difference. So there is a difference. And that's all they're talking about on page 245 is the difference between ordinary and exact. You just run it both ways and you come up with a difference. If you go with me over to 246, for whatever reason this author is really big into estimates because we've talked about it in other chapters. Again, he's talking about estimating exact simple interest, and what you do is you just round to the nearest big number. If you go with me to example H, they're talking about $2,500 at 6.15% for 59 days. If you're going to estimate, you would raise the 6.15. You would round that down to 6%. The 59 days would go to 60 days. I am not a big fan of this. I think your homework, there's 2 questions involving estimating, so it's not something I put a lot of emphasis on, but sometimes it doesn't hurt to have that. Then over on 247, my friends, again, table 13.2, you've got some formulas, principal, rate, and time. I'll give you 2 of the 3. You'll have to use the formulas over here in the right-hand column to figure out how to calculate the missing variable. At this point, I might give you the amount of interest and ask you to give me the principal. I might give you everything except the rate. I might give you everything but the time, and you'll have to figure out the time. So if you look at that right-hand column in table 13-2, those are the 4 formulas you've got to be able to work with. And again, my friends, if you'll turn the page with me, if you'll look at example J, K, L, all you're doing is filling in the blank. And I still, to this day, I write out the formula each and every time. Because then all I have to do is fill in the blanks. And we'll do one here real quick. How are we looking on time? I don't know why you guys do this. I am a long-winded son of a gun. But we'll do one. I figured after the last 2 chapters we went through, you probably needed a fairly simple, get it? Simple interest, simple chapter. You probably needed a good chapter like this. Let's do one, for example, let's do the bottom one. Example L. Find the time. Right off the bat, we know we're looking for time. So I have a formula to find time. Go back to page 247, table 13-2. To find time is the bottom line. Time equals interest divided by principal times rate. Guys, all I have to do now is fill in the blanks. Going back to example L, find the time if the interest is $324. That's my interest. The principal is $4,800. And the rate is 9%. So all I really did was fill in the blanks. Then it says time to the nearest whole day based on a 360-day year, which means it's probably called ordinary. You go through all this, you multiply these things out. Guys, I'm going to have to come down here. Time equals 324 divided by, multiply that out, and you will get 432, which equals 0.75 of a year. Are you done? Does this tell me anything? It does not tell me anything. Based on 365 days, what you do is 0.75 times 360 days equals 270 days. That's your answer. But again, my friends, if you just look on page 247, table 13-2, know where to get those formulas at, you'll be fine. Because after that, it's just going to be fill in the blanks. Although I'm telling you, if I only gave you if I only gave you one of the 3, that'd be kind of funny to me. Simple interest, exact interest, ordinary interest. Again, no steps boxes, but look at the gray or the tan boxes. Look at your formulas. I'm not real big on estimating, but there are a couple homework questions just so that you understand what's going on with it. But for the most part, it's fill in the blank chapter. All right, guys, have fun.